Earlier this morning, the entire internet was absolutely positively shocked when news broke that Jeffrey Epstein had died by apparent suicide. This is one of those stories that has people really asking themselves just what the hell is going on. I mean, you've got this guy here, a convicted pedophile or alleged pedophile who is up for more sex trafficking charges, and there is literally no way he would even be remotely let go this time. There'd be no way he would be able to get the same deal he got before. He mysteriously dies. And you've got me sitting here going like, look, I'm not usually a conspiracy guy, but geez, come on here. This meme pretty much says my entire opinion on the situation. And not just me, literally everybody, from your authoritarians on the left or the right, the libertarians on the left or the right, where everyone is on the far sides of the political spectrum right now, everyone thinks Epstein was killed. And you know what? I'm not going to disagree with him. I think there's a lot of people out there who have a pretty solid thought process on this, even going as far as to mess with the Suicide Watch Wikipedia page by saying here that Suicide Watch is an intensive monitoring process used to ensure that anyone except Jeffrey Epstein cannot commit suicide. And that's dark, but funny. It's very dark, but very funny. So then I couldn't help but ask the question, who killed Epstein? Who killed Jeffrey Epstein? And these aren't just like my thoughts on this. This is something I've spent the vast majority of the morning reading. And so I put together a list of the top 5 who killed Jeffrey Epstein conspiracies floating around the internet right now. So number 5 is Epstein was coerced. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, how could he be coerced into killing himself? That doesn't make a lot of sense. Well, let's check this out. So yesterday, Jeffrey Epstein accuser names powerful men in alleged sex ring. In newly unsealed documents, Virginia Guffrey claims that Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell trafficked her to politicians, princes, and a high-flying financier. Going on to say that a young woman who says financier Jeffrey Epstein and socialite Ghislaine Maxwell kept her as a sex slave also accused a host of high-powered men of being involved in Epstein's alleged sex trafficking ring, according to court records unsealed on Friday. Virginia Guffrey, who says Epstein and Maxwell trafficked her to powerful people for erotic massages and sex, claimed in depositions in 2016 that Maxwell directed her to have sex with former New Mexico Governor Bill Richardson, Britain's Prince Andrew, with whom she had accused before, wealthy financier Glenn Dubin, and former Senator George Mitchell, now deceased MIT scientist Marvin Minsky, and modeling agent Jean-Luc Brunel, as well as another prince and a foreign president and a well-known prime minister and the owner of a large hotel chain in France. And the things to consider about this is ultimately none of these people have been convicted of a crime. They've just been alleged in these particular unsealings, and most have come out and said, no, not at all. This never happened. We didn't do it. But that is something there to consider. Did Jeffrey Epstein take one for the team by taking himself out? He had dirt on a lot of people. So it's a question. Did he kill himself? Was he coerced into doing it in order to protect other people's interests? We'll ultimately never know. But then the question becomes, did the Clintons do it? And this one clearly has the most traction on the internet. We know that Epstein was good friends with Bill Clinton, and according to the Wikipedia page, these two traveled together relatively often, or at least more often than you would assume. According to the Wikipedia page here, Epstein was a longtime acquaintance of Prince Andrew and Tom Barrack and had attended parties with many prominent people, including Bill Clinton, George Stephanopoulos, Donald Trump, Katie Couric, and Woody Allen. His contacts also included Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak and British Prime Minister Tony Blair. Both Clinton and Donald Trump claimed that they never visited Epstein's island, but Epstein owned a private Boeing 727 jet nicknamed the Lolita Express by the press, and traveled it frequently, locking in 600 flying hours per year, usually with guests on board. In September 2002, Epstein flew Clinton, Kevin Spacey, and Chris Tucker to Africa in a private jet. Flight records obtained in 2016 show Clinton flew on Epstein's plane 26 times to at least a dozen international locations. Flight logs did not list any Secret Service detail for at least 5 of the flights. And the thing to consider with that is that the Secret Service will stay with the president for 7 years following his presidency. So by 2002, Clinton had only been out for a little over a year and a half. So Secret Service was clearly with him. And so if there were no Secret Service details for at least 5 of those flights, that is something that is interesting. Now, the Secret Service stated that there's no evidence that the former president making a trip to the private island. A Clinton spokesperson later said in 2019 that Clinton took 4 trips on Epstein's airplane, making stops in 3 continents with all of his staff and Secret Service detail. Epstein's brother told the Washington Post that Trump flew numerous times on Epstein's airplane, although he was only present on one of the flights. Trump also flew Epstein on his own airplane at least once. At the time of Epstein's 2019 arrest, a Clinton spokesperson, Angela Urena, stated that the former president had not spoken to Epstein in well over a decade and had never been to Little St. James Islands, Epstein Ranch in New Mexico, or his residence in Florida. And that's been the big thing here, because on Twitter, we've seen a lot of people talking about this. In fact, this was tweeted. This was this morning. Number 1 trending topic, Epstein. Number 2, Clintons. Number 3, Clinton body count. Number 4, suicide. And number 4, hashtag Epstein. People are talking about this. People are discussing this. People are asking these questions. And it really is fascinating to see, because we don't know where things are, especially when you look at this Google image search right here. This is true. Look up Jeffrey Epstein, Bill Clinton together, or just Bill Clinton, Jeffrey Epstein. You do not find a photo of the 2 of them together, period, point blank. In fact, look at the first photo here. It's Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. This is the first image search that you see when you do a search for it. And that to me is wildly suspicious that they put that image there first. I can't help but wonder if the tinfoil is running strong today, and there's a reason for that, especially when this image is the only one that I can find. You can't Google search for it. Somebody had it. Somebody gave it to me. I don't know if it's legit. They claimed Tinai is my friend in regards to finding it. And ultimately, it feels like the search results for this have been ultimately shut down. And that is pretty crazy, which then leads me to number 3 here. The Illuminati killed Epstein. Now, this is a bit of a far stretch. I get that. But when you look at who Epstein knew, who he's been accused of associating with, who he has publicly associated with, and the crimes he has been accused of perpetrating, the Illuminati is not that far of a stretch. It really isn't that far of a stretch. It's not hard to put on the tinfoil hat on this one, especially when you look at the sweetheart deal that he got from Alex Acosta, who was the former labor secretary before stepping down after this situation came back up a few months ago. That was brought up quite a bit by the liberal media, and trying to put pressure on Acosta and put pressure on Trump to address it. And finally, Acosta stepped down, but he did have a pretty sweetheart deal. You can look into that, and it's pretty crazy. Additionally here, this is what law enforcement found when they raided Jeffrey Epstein's Upper East Side mansion. This was back in July 8th of last month, where they raided it on Saturday night when they executed a search warrant. And this is what they found via a memo. It says, while these items were only seized this weekend and are still being reviewed, some of the nude or partially nude photographs appear to be of underage girls, including at least one who, according to her counsel, was underage at the time of the relevant photographs were taken. Additionally, some of the photographs referenced herein were discovered in a locked safe, in which law enforcement officers also found compact discs with handwritten labels, including the following: young plus name, misc nude ones, and girls pics nude. The defendant, a registered sex offender, is not reformed, he is not chastened, and he is not repentant. Rather, he is continuing danger to the community and an individual who faces devastating evidence supporting deeply serious charges. And this is just what they found. This is what we know that they found. And I'm sure as more court documents become unsealed, we're going to find a lot more. And so it does really ask the question, did the Illuminati have something to do with this? I mean, maybe they did. You know, I've seen Bohemian Grove pull up quite a bit today. I've seen a lot of people talking about that. I've seen a lot of people bringing that into the conversation. And if you've ever followed anything involving Alex Jones, his Dark Secrets documentary, which is an interesting one, he goes into Bohemian Grove. Look into it. Look who's there. It's a lot of powerful people. And I'm sure a lot of them are connected to Epstein. They all kind of know each other. So I have to ask the question, did the Illuminati take out Epstein? It's entirely possible. But this is the big one of the day, right? This is the one everyone's talking about right now. Did Trump order Barr to do it? This is number 2. Did Trump order Barr to take out Jeffrey Epstein? Because look, the thing is, these guys, they're known. They're known with one another. I mean, they've got a lot of pictures of them together over the years. In fact, Ghislaine Maxwell, I believe, is this woman right here. She's the one that was being heavily accused for being kind of the recruiter for Epstein. And here she is with Trump, and that appears to be Melania from back in clearly the early 2000s. So obviously there is a connection between Trump and between Jeffrey Epstein. There's no denying it. As I recently said in the Wikipedia entry, there's a whole thing there about Trump flying quite a bit and Trump flying Jeffrey Epstein. Never mind the interview Trump gave about Epstein, where they had said that, oh, he's a great guy, have him over for dinner, yada, yada, yada. The two are associated with one another, and there's been a lot of pressure put onto Trump right now as a result of his arrest based upon the accusations levied at him. And so even that, even all those pictures aside, and we know that they're friends, this even popped up too. Unsealed flight logs show that Trump was on Epstein's private jet in 1997. This is the Lolita Express. Flight logs list Donald Trump on a January 1997 flight on Jeffrey Epstein's private jet from Palm Beach to Newark, New Jersey. Look, the two were friends. The two worked together quite often. At least they were seen together quite often. So we don't really know everything that happened. But according to the Wikipedia here for the death, and this is where things get interesting, Epstein died of an apparent suicide by hanging August 10th, 2019, while imprisoned at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in New York City. Prison officials found his body in his cell at 6:30 a.m. 3 weeks previously, he'd been found unconscious in his jail cell with injuries to his neck. After that incident, he was placed on suicide watch. And the thing is, a lot of people thought that when he was injured a few weeks ago, that it was an attack, that somebody had tried to take Jeffrey Epstein out. Somebody had made the attempt to do it, or he had attempted to commit suicide. And that, of course, has played in quite a bit with today's conversation surrounding his death. What happened? And we are going to talk about that here in a second. But ultimately, it's a very interesting thing with him because of the suicide watch. Now, it says, however, he was not on suicide watch at the time of his death, leading some prison experts to express bafflement and shock that he would be taken off suicide watch at such a time. U.S. Attorney General William Barr ordered an investigation by the Department of Justice Inspector General, in addition to the FBI investigation, saying he was appalled by Epstein's death in federal custody, which makes a lot of sense. Absolutely does. Now, what we need to know about the Metropolitan Correctional Center here in New York is that it is a United States federal administrative detention facility in Manhattan, New York, which holds male and female prisoners of all security levels. It's operated by the Federal Bureau of Prisons, a division of the United States Department of Justice. This is like a maximum, I don't know if it's maximum security prison, but it's a pretty heavily guarded prison inside New York City where a lot of bad people are. And William Barr is the head of the Department of Justice, so the buck does stop with him. But he did issue a statement today saying here, Attorney General William P. Barr issues the following statement. I was appalled to learn that Jeffrey Epstein was found dead early this morning from an apparent suicide while in federal custody. Mr. Epstein's death raises serious questions that must be answered. In addition to the FBI's investigation, I have consulted with the Inspector General, who is opening an investigation into circumstances of Mr. Epstein's death. And good on him for that. So the question then becomes, did he do it? Did he have anything to do with this? We don't know. Again, it's a theory that's going around right now with the pressure being put onto Donald Trump because of their association over the years. Some have speculated that William Barr is doing his master's bidding and tying up loose ends. Like I said, we really have no idea. And I don't even think that's the most realistic one. If you want my honest opinion, the craziest one I've seen today is number one here. Epstein isn't even dead. Bam! I know, you're thinking to yourself, there's literally no way that's possible. Everyone's talking about there being a suicide, everything that's happened. Yeah, I know. This dude's a powerful, connected guy. He knows a lot of people. A lot of people want him gone because he can name names. I get that. I totally get that. But there's some interesting speculation here surrounding what might have happened, at least trying to lay breadcrumbs going the other direction. So the Metropolitan Correctional Center, as we can see here, is a fortress in the middle of the city. So getting somebody out is going to require very interesting tactics. So according to Michael Cordry here, it says breaking alleged camera malfunction last night at MCC where Jeffrey Epstein was locked up. Now this guy, blue checkmark, coming over to his Twitter page here, we can see that he's an entrepreneur, CEO of Yuko social media for politicians and organizations, co-founder of the New Right USA. And he's been talking quite a bit about Epstein all day. Even this tweet here saying Jeffrey Epstein became an FBI informant to avoid federal charges in 2008. The FBI worked with the pedophile and in turn made no subsequent arrests with the information he provided. And so again, he's been really covering this. But going back to the camera issue, there has been no corroboration from that outside of Michael here. So we have to take it with a grain of salt. But this is coming from a Reuters article, and this is where it gets really fishy. At the MCC, 2 jail guards are required to make separate checks on all prisoners every 30 minutes, but that procedure was not followed overnight, according to the source who doesn't want to remain nameless. In addition, every 15 minutes, guards were required to make another check on prisoners who are on suicide watch. Guards generally remove any prisoner placed on suicide watch from the special housing unit where Epstein was housed, according to a Twitter post by Preet Bharara, a former Manhattan-based U.S. attorney. The unit separates inmates such as accused sex offenders from the general population for their protection. Ajay Davis, a spokeswoman for the New York City office of the chief medical examiner, said she could not say how Epstein died before her office examined the body. So even right there, we know that there's the accusation of malfunctioning cameras. The MCC where he was being held has him, quite frankly, on 23 hours a day surveillance. And they left him alone for an hour, and magically this sort of thing happened. But even going a little bit to a different place in the article, it says even though Epstein was found unconscious last month, he had recently been taken off suicide watch, a special set of procedures for inmates in danger of taking their own lives, according to the source. The financier was in a cell by himself when his body was found. So no security guards looked into him, and he was found on his own. And so then the question becomes, did he kill himself on his own? I mean, everything else I've talked about today, it could lead into this, right? But this is the other thing too. This is what got me thinking, right? So we have this picture here, and there's a couple photos like this of Epstein's body being removed from the facility. And I can't help but ask the question, is this just for show? They've got him, his face is exposed in another photo. We get to see them taking him away, giving us a body, getting him out of the facility. Right? If he's dead, no one's going to ask questions. The medical examiner hasn't checked out the body yet. Very interesting in and of itself. Not to mention, we have this article coming in from the New York Post today saying former MCC inmate saying there's no way Jeffrey Epstein killed himself. Right? Now, obviously, this is going to be leading a bit towards the concept that he was taken out by guards at the MCC or someone who had come in to be maybe a fixer or a cleaner. But he says here, and this is an anonymous person, there's no way this man could have killed himself. I've done too much time in those units. It's an impossibility. Between the floor and the ceiling, it's like 8 or 9 feet. There's no way for you to connect to anything. You have sheets, but they're paper level, not strong enough. He was 200 pounds. It would never happen. When you're on suicide watch, they put you in this white schmuck, a straitjacket. They know a person cannot be injurious to themselves. Could he have done it from the bed? No, sir. There's a steel frame, but you can't move it. There's no light fixture. There's no bars. They don't give you enough in there that you could successfully create an instrument of death. You want to write a letter, they give you rubber pens, and maybe once a week a piece of paper. Nothing hard or made of metal. There's a cop at the door about every 9 minutes, whether you're on suicide watch or not. And that is a very interesting claim there, isn't it? Where it's like, look, nothing in this room could have made him kill himself, right? So there's that. And then looking at this photo again, we can see that it's like he's, being resuscitated or attempting resuscitation, and people are trying to work on him as he's being let off. So anything could be a possibility on this front right here. But 4chan has a very interesting one themselves. And this again is 4chan. Take this with a grain of salt. But this popped up just today saying, not saying anything after this. Please do not try to dox me. But last night after 4:15 count, they took him medical in a wheelchair, front cuffed, but not triage nurse as they spoke to him. Next thing we know, a trip van shows up. We do not do releases on the weekends unless a judge orders it. Next thing we know, he's put in a single man cell and hangs himself. Here's the thing. The trip van did not sign in, and we did not record the plate number, and the guy in a green dress military outfit was in the back of the van, according to our tower guy who led him through the gate. You guys, I'm shaking right now, but I think they switched him out. And that is a very interesting case, is it not? Is Jeffrey Epstein alive or dead? We don't really know. We don't know until the medical examiner releases their report, but this guy could very much be alive right now, having used his power, his money, and his influence to walk away scot-free once again, this time with no intention to return. Whatever he has on somebody, he would have to give it up. He would have to make sure that it is gone, it is not coming back, and neither is he. But the truth of the matter is we don't know. We don't know if Jeffrey Epstein's alive. Most likely he's dead. And I don't feel sadness, sympathy, pity for this particular guy. He is a bad person who did bad things, allegedly. And we're going to learn a lot more about him as time comes on. But this is just a video I wanted to put together of the top 5 conspiracy theories surrounding Jeffrey Epstein's death, who killed him, why they might have killed him. But I want to hear from you, your thoughts, your opinions. What do you think went down? How do you think it went down? Do you think he's alive? Is he dead? These are things we should all know. We should talk about, we should discuss them, because that's the most interesting thing about this. Anyone from any political position right now is very much thinking he's dead, somebody killed him. So let's talk about that. Anyway, I will talk to you guys later. Have yourself a fantastic day. Thank you so much for watching. Peace out.